Howdy y'all, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. I recently took a trip to the Susquehanna River, the home of the Susquehannock, to capture some highly detailed photographs of the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge. There has been a bridge in this location for more than 200 years, so the bridge that we look at today is currently known as the Veterans Memorial Bridge, and I wanted to focus on its foundations and the unique architecture. Let's look at this 20th century feat of engineering in Columbia, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. The first bridge across the Susquehanna River in this location actually dates back the whole way to 1812, and we will also dabble into that history as well. But the first thing I'd like to share with you is the enormous size of this bridge. The bridge we are currently looking at measures 6,657 feet long, or 2,029 meters, with a width of 48 feet. The bridge was completed in the year 1930 as part of the original Lincoln Highway, the nation's first transcontinental highway stretching from Upper New York to San Francisco. The architecture, designed by the Wiley-Maxon Construction Company at a cost of nearly $2.5 million, would be equivalent to roughly $45 million today. Over 100,000 cubic yards of concrete, as well as over 8 million pounds of steel, were used in the construction of the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge that we see today, and upon opening in 1930, the bridge carried a 25-cent toll, equivalent to roughly $5 today. The longest span of this engineering masterpiece is over 185 feet, and this historic bridge is part of the National Register of Historic Places and also a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark. The bridge was first renovated in the 1970s with new renovations set to begin in 2020. However, those plans were pushed back first until 2023, and then when small cracks were noticed in the bridge's foundation, a new renovation date was set for 2025. However, the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge is honestly so remarkable. To see it in person, spanning the Susquehanna River, it's absolutely beautiful. And when I was exploring the foundations of this bridge, I was actually able to find the foundations of one of the even earlier bridges tucked deep in the forest surrounding the current bridge. I will share all of my photographs that I took with you here today. And honestly, when we look at this architecture, even though it is concrete and steel, it is delicately placed on the water's edge, and it truly left me with a feeling of awe. The first Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge was planned as far back as the year 1812, coinciding with the War of 1812. The first bridge, meant to be the first permanent crossing of the Susquehanna River, was constructed by Walcott and the Slaymaker brothers at costs underwritten by the Columbia Bank and Bridge Company, said to have been formed to facilitate the financial aspects of building the bridge. Remarkably, the first Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge was a covered bridge, old world in style, with multiple piers, a whitewashed interior, and a sophisticated wooden roof and walls. When completed in 1814, it was considered to be the longest bridge in America, and by most accounts, the longest bridge in all of the world, at 5,690 feet long. Just imagine all of that as a covered, wooden, community-friendly bridge. It would have looked absolutely incredible. This mile-long covered bridge stood for 18 years before being destroyed by the Great Hurricane of 1832. The second bridge that was built to replace it also took less than 2 years to construct and was begun shortly after the first bridge fell. The second Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge was also a covered bridge, this time built by John Evans and James Moore. We're told the second had more attention to detail, incorporating a higher usage of stonework and having an overall better aesthetic value. Tolls for the second bridge were $1 for wagons, equivalent to roughly $30 today, but just 6 cents for pedestrians, equivalent to roughly $1.85 today. This structure must have been rather sound, as in 1840, we're told this mile-long covered bridge was modified to become even wider and include tow paths for horses. In 1846, it was further widened, adding a double-link railway to the already immense covered bridge, finally linking Columbia, Philadelphia, and the Great Northern Central Railway. We're told the trains were pulled across the tracks in either direction by a team of mules or horses inside the bridge. Again, imagine what this immense covered bridge would have looked like. It's almost indescribable. And lucky for us, we have one surviving photograph of this bridge before it was destroyed. Here is where we get to another interesting part of this narrative. During the Civil War, Union troops under Granville O. Haller and Jacob Frick were ordered to destroy the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge to stop a Confederate advancement into Lancaster. However, initially, the Confederates under Jubal Early and John Gordon tried to save the historic bridge, with orders from General Lee coming in later saying, "Allow the bridge to burn." In 6 hours, we're told the entire Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge had toppled to the ground. The Columbia Bank and Bridge Company then desperately tried to plead with the Pennsylvania government for reimbursement. However, they were denied. Miraculously, the stone piers, the foundations of the original bridge, survived, and they were sold by the Bank and Bridge Company to the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1864. The third bridge was then completed in 1868, standing for 28 years until the great 1896 Cedar Keys hurricane, which took the entire structure down, which consisted of carriageways, walkways, railways, and piers. The last bridge to be built on the ancient foundations of the first bridge from 1812 was the fourth rendition of the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge, constructed in 1897. This bridge was known as the Pennsylvania Railroad's Iron Bridge and was completed in just 25 days, said to be the fastest bridge building job in history up until that point. The bridge was composed of 200-foot long steel trusses and was designed to be resistant to all elements. The iron and prefabricated steel structure had a railway to carry rail traffic for the York branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad and twin carriageways that were shared with pedestrians. We're told throughout its life, the fourth Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge was considered incomplete, as it was originally designed to have an upper deck to carry even more traffic across the Susquehanna River. The pre-Civil War stone piers of the original bridge still stand today. However, the fourth rendition, the last rendition of the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge to stand on these piers, was scrapped for parts beginning in 1963. The current bridge we see today in the photographs that I took is just a few hundred feet away from some of the original stone piers that still exist in the Susquehanna River. So there you have it, the vast history of the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge, from roughly 1812 through the present. I hope you enjoyed my photographs. I know you like it when I get to these boots on the ground sort of settings to take photographs for you, and these were some of the finest photographs I have taken of any location yet. So I really do hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you learned something from this video. If you ever get the chance, I would definitely visit the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge. It's absolutely immense, it's absolutely beautiful, and tucked away just below these foundations in the forested area are so many other examples of ancient or old world architecture. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts and ideas down below. You can reach out or support the channel with the link in my YouTube profile, and we will talk again very soon on the next video. And hey, before I chime out, this is the part of the video that you probably all wanted to see. These are the ancient foundations of one of the older bridges still being tucked away in the forested area right around the bridge that is still standing today. These are not necessarily hidden by any means, but there were not any other people that were going into the forest looking for these ancient pieces of architecture. These stone structures may be from the late 1800s, they may be from the mid 1800s. We're not exactly sure what version of the bridge or what sort of architecture this was that was connected with the bridge, but we do have two large structures here in the middle of the forested area in Columbia, Pennsylvania.